Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Black Ops 6. Today we have a bunch of things to go over. A new update went live which actually changed up some of the weapon balancing. They buffed and nerfed various aspects of the game, and also Treyarch is already teasing 3 brand new maps coming to Black Ops 6 in Season 1. This of course would be part of their marketing campaign as we are now 10 days away from Season 1, but this is also likely a response to the overwhelming amount of feedback claiming that the Black Ops 6 launch maps, let's be honest, really freaking suck. Like, no matter where I go, who I watch, or what I read, the one piece of universal feedback surrounding this game is that the maps are bad. So let's take a look at the 3 brand new maps that are going to be coming with Season 1. We only have a short trailer to go off here, but the first map is going to be Extraction. I think it's safe to say that this was ripped from the new Warzone map that's going to be coming out next year, but it does look decently sized. The outside areas have long sightlines, but we don't see anything about the interior fighting, so it may mix and match longer sightlines with super cramped indoor combat. Next up, we have Heirloom, which is said to be for 6v6 and 2v2, which means it's going to be another face-off map, which of course is going to be super tiny. It looks to be set inside of a museum, but we really don't see much in this trailer. Believe it or not, they are teasing 3 multiplayer maps, and the trailer is 12 seconds long, so we don't really get to see a whole lot, but we can expect more teasers to come out before Season 1 launches. And finally, we have Hideout, which looks to be about medium-sized, give or take. The trailer shows some medium to long sightlines, but there's also a lot of cover everywhere, and of course we don't see what's going on inside the buildings. I'm worried that this map is going to have that running in mud feeling. You guys know what I'm talking about because the map looks to be rather slim and long. Picture like a giant rectangle. Well, when maps are designed this way, depending on how the spawn system works, it can sometimes feel like you're running in mud, trying to get from one side of the map to the other, but I guess we'll have to see how the map actually plays when Season 1 drops on November 14th. Unfortunately, that does it for the new map teasers. Again, we're going to be seeing a lot more in the coming days as we get closer to Season 1, but right now, that 12-second trailer is all we have to go off of. So for right now, let's go ahead and move into the patch notes for today's update, because we basically got the first balance change for Black Ops 6. I was just talking about the spawns, however, so let's lead with a quick note from Treyarch as they claim that today's update has adjusted spawn logic. Spawn tuning will be an ongoing process of taking in data, reviewing gameplay, and making measured adjustments in the live environment. Our #1 goal is to always provide the safest spawn that we can across all maps and game modes. I'll believe that when I see it, Treyarch. My goodness, I'm not sure if it's possible to have a good spawn system on a lot of the maps within Black Ops 6. They're just too freaking small, but apparently they're working on it. Apparently today's update changed a few things, and of course spawn tuning is going to be an ongoing process throughout the entirety of the Black Ops 6 lifecycle. Next up, let's talk about the weapon balance changes. Reading through the patch notes can be pretty confusing at times, but this is basically what they did. For all assault rifles, they seem to have reduced the damage for each gun by 1 or 2 damage points, which really doesn't change anything, while also messing with their ranges. Most assault rifles will now have a longer maximum damage range, which means your gun is going to be doing max damage further away before range starts to fall off. That sounds a bit like a buff for close range, but they also messed with the further ranges, and in general, after that max damage range, your damage fall off is going to be a bit more noticeable. Basically, up close, assault rifles got a not really noticeable damage nerf, but they also got a buff to their close range power, and then when people are medium to long distances away, you're going to notice that damage fall off a little bit more than before. Confusing, I know, but that's why we have people like Exclusive Base and JGod, but overall it doesn't sound like they really changed up that much about the assault rifles. Next up, when it comes to the submachine guns, however, across the board, they basically all got buffs to their damage ranges, which means that submachine guns will be a bit more viable at a range, especially when going against assault rifles. That was kind of the entire idea behind today's balance changes, was they kind of wanted to make it so assault rifles weren't as crazy at ranges, and submachine guns were a bit better at ranges to kind of find more of a middle ground between the 2 most popular weapon categories here within Black Ops 6. For me personally, I do agree that submachine guns felt downright weak at longer ranges, but most of the time, I can't lie to you guys, with skill-based matchmaking and everything, most of my lobbies on these tiny maps are people just butt sliding around, so it's really hard to say what a long-range gunfight even feels like in Black Ops 6. But yeah, they made some changes today to the assault rifles and the SMGs, and we're gonna have to wait and see how those all feel. For me personally, I already got gold on all the assault rifles, so I don't plan on using them anytime soon, but I am still working through the submachine guns, so hopefully things are gonna feel a little bit better as I'm trying to get my headshots. Next up here, we have a Nerfed Recon. This is something that people have been wanting for a very long time, ever since the beta pretty much, and what they did is basically they took the amount of time that you have free wall hacks down from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds, and they also claim that an additional reduction will be coming before Season 1 on November 14th. So likely, they took it from 2 seconds down to 1.5 seconds, and before Season 1, they're probably going to drop it down down to 1 second, but I'm not even sure that's going to be enough. The real problem with Recon is these maps are so tiny that Recon is always going to be powerful, especially when you're playing things like Face Off, where a lot of people are playing right now to grind their camos. But even in the normal multiplayer, a lot of the maps like Babylon, for example, are so small that having Recon even for 1 second is going to be a huge advantage. And one part of the bonus I don't think a lot of people really talk about enough outside of search and destroy players is the free high alert that comes with Recon as well. All somebody has to do is see you on their screen, and it's going to highlight your screen and point you in their direction. They don't even have to be aiming at you. You're going to get that bonus no matter what. If somebody sees you and you don't see them, it's going to let you know that somebody sees you all the time, and there's no counter. That's the biggest thing, right? There's no counter to anything when it comes to the Recon combat specialty. You then couple that in with the fact that the blue perks are some of the best in the game. You have perks like Ninja, you have perks like Ghost, Engineer, you have the one that gives you a zoomed out minimap. All these perks are very powerful, and then on top of that, you throw in free high alert and wall hacks. Like, the entire design behind Recon is mind-blowing. It fundamentally messes up how the game feels and how the game plays. If you're somebody who wants to rush, good luck, because if you kill somebody, they're going to spawn in behind cover and see you through walls and know exactly where you're coming from. If you're trying to flank, they have free high alert. They know you're behind them. Even if you have Ninja, even if you have Ghost, even if you're using a suppressor, even if you're doing all this stuff, it does not matter. Recon cannot be countered. They will always know where you are. So the idea of like rushing and flanking, which is a very popular playstyle in COD, you can't really do that as long as Recon exists. It's a very powerful combat specialty, which is why you see most people running it in pretty much every lobby that you play. That's not to say that the red perks and the green perks aren't also good. It just seems like the blue perks right now are out of hand, and it's going to be interesting to see how Treyarch handles this system moving forward. It's also worth mentioning that the Dispatcher perk got a nerf today. Basically, it's still going to give you cheaper UAVs and counter UAVs, but instead of them being 100 points cheaper, they're now going to be 50 points cheaper. To wrap up the video here today, we have a couple of other changes here in the patch notes. We have the slug attachment for both of these shotguns getting a nerf. If we go down here, the flashbang, they reduced the flashbang's screen effect duration by 20%, which is fantastic. When it comes to score streaks, the health of the UAV and counter UAV has been increased, but not for rockets. Basically, they want you to shoot down UAVs and counter UAVs with rockets, not with just your gun. They increased the initial explosion radius of the napalm, which is a buff. They reduced the initial entry delay of the LDBR artillery thing. That's also a buff. Increased the flying speed of the strategic bomber. That's a buff. And reduced the score cost for interceptors. Like, do we need people running air patrol again? Do we really need that? Movement updates. Adjusted stance change cooldowns to reduce effectiveness of repeated prone to stand movement so people can't snake nearly as easily, but the movement is still pretty cracked out. I was playing earlier today. It's still pretty crazy, but they did nerf snaking a little bit. XP earn rates, this is pretty good. They increased the weapon XP earn rates in most game modes, and then increased the player XP earn rates in Team Deathmatch, Control, Search and Destroy, as well as Gunfight. Search, I know in particular, was really bad for earning player XP, so that's a good update right there. And then a slight decrease to player XP and weapon XP in the face-off modes, and I definitely felt that today. It really feels like you're not really leveling up whatsoever when you're playing in face-off. I mean, you're getting your challenges done quickly, but you're not really leveling up all that fast in that game mode anymore. That's pretty much it for the update here today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put a link to the full patch notes down there in the description, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think about today's changes down there in the comments, as well as the new multiplayer maps. Are those going to be the maps that kind of come in and save Black Ops 6 essentially? And also, are they planning on bringing back some classic maps? We had a bunch of maps that were leaked a while ago that might be coming to Black Ops 6. Will some throwback maps also be coming with Season 1 as a way to kind of help players forget about the terrible launch maps? I guess we're going to have to wait and see, but ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this video here today. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comments. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.